I understand that you want to shed this identity of the woman that you no longer want to be and that you're battling yourself internally. I understand that. So come to me, I'll help you. But then there's no solution. There's relatability because that's how they market, but there's no relatability in terms of embodiment. Most of these mentors who say that they can hold the space for the pain and the struggles that these women are going through, they haven't embodied the descent and they haven't embodied the ascent and they haven't embodied what it actually takes to make it through that and navigate that. So they'll speak to the pain points and they'll be relatable, but then there's nothing on the other. Is this on? I don't think I'll ever be ready for this level of conversation. That's a big question because I'm already getting emotional. I feel like the drop in around the rage room really came from a place of actually seeing the women in my industry crumble and it taking me back to all of the times that I have crumbled and really trying to embody that piece of me that craved something more. And so when I created the Rage Room, I really wanted there to be a space for women like me in that moment of time, in that moment of crumbling, in that moment of struggle. And when I took my daughter to an actual Rage Room for her 16th birthday, I realized that there are so many ways for us to exhaust this pent-up energy, this struggle energy, this miserable energy that actually becomes our identity and drags us down. And I found myself in the biggest struggle points in my life battling myself internally. I wasn't battling anything. I wasn't battling anyone. I was just facing the battle alone and I was facing it internally. And so the Rage Room is really a place for women to enjoy the descent as a process and enjoy the descent as something beautiful before they ascend into their next level. And conversations that I've been having around the Rage Room is like a lot of the women are already on the cusp, they're already on the edge. And the fear lies in stepping off of the edge, on literally just blindfolding yourself, falling off the cliff and knowing that at the bottom, you've got you. And so the Rage Room is really for the woman who is on the edge, is on the cusp, has seen success in her life or her business or her relationships, but is battling herself internally for fear of taking off the mask, stepping out of the facade, for fear of that creating an income dip or creating cancellation or creating rejection. And it's really, I hate the word safe space because I don't think that it is a safe space. I think that it's the room where women get to completely unravel and be okay with unraveling and it not having to be this big mindful healing experience, but more so experiencing themselves in the height of their rage and it being something beautiful.
So leading women through this point of descent, at what point did you surrender to the descent and decide to ascend?
Oh, that gave me chills through my whole body, like literal goosebumps. I am one giant goosebump. I feel like there's been many points in my life and my career where I've desired to surrender and I thought that I was surrendering, but I think then the point where I'm going to get emotional. I think the point where I really surrendered, really dropped to my knees and surrender was at the beginning of 2025 when I had a client completely cancel me and default on all of her payments and do chargebacks on all of her payments and made sure that she did one individual each every single day to know, so that I would know that she was upset, that she was angry, that she was triggered, that she was going through her own struggles. And at first I made it about me and I completely unraveled and crumbled and actually had told you, my husband is asking the questions, actually told you that we needed to file bankruptcy, that there was no way out of this. And I remember thinking to myself several times, just surrender. This is out of my control. Just surrender. This is out of my control. And finally, I just said, fuck it. What else am I going to lose at this point if I just surrender and step into who I truly desire to become? And shedding who I no longer wanted to be was the person who let the struggles of others dictate where I was going, the struggles of others dictate how I was going to proceed in either my business or my life. And so when I surrendered, I made a decision to strengthen my relationship with God, strengthen my relationship with a higher power, strengthen my relationship with this internal piece of me that I had been suppressing and shutting down for so long because of the fear of rejection, because of the fear of being canceled, because of the fear of what the fuck was happening in that moment. But even when I was not surrendering and I was trying to control everything, these things were still happening to me in my life. And so I just said, fuck it. And it was at that moment, I believe it was January, February, and March of the beginning of this year, where I just said, this is the descent. And one of my friends and colleagues, Nadine Muller, said, we have to descend before we ascend. And of course, I've always heard that. And now this was not only applying to my life, now this was not only applying to my relationship, now this was not only applying to my business, it was applying to all the facets of my life. And so I started to see as I was surrendered more and more each day, it wasn't just like I made this decision to surrender and I just surrendered and that was great. And then I started to ascend. It was like I surrendered a little bit each day because I'm fucking human and I had to give myself the opportunity to see evidence for my surrender. Otherwise, it was like completely disoriented and there was no light at the end of the tunnel for me. And because we're human, I feel like a piece of us sometimes need that validation and needs that evidence that we can move forward and see abundance and see this as beautiful and not chaotic. And so the more I started to see that and the more abundant things started flowing into my life and into my business specifically, I just said the descent is actually quite beautiful. It's quiet, it's lonely. And that was actually where I realized that I was an introvert and not an extrovert. My ideas started becoming tangible visions and they triggered tangible actions. And I started to see massive results from this. And so when I created the Rage Room, I wanted to create the space where women could start alchemizing the pain and the anger that they felt in their bodies from the descent or from this cusp that they were sitting on for so long and alchemize it into something beautiful. And so at that point, and I'm still recognizing this and it's still strengthening as time goes on, even in the present, but I started seeing the descent as something that is very necessary and required to step into the next evolution of our life.
So speaking of next evolution, human growth isn't linear. Do you feel, since you've been through this descent already, that you'd be better equipped going forward into another descent to come out of it bigger and better and more efficiently? Also touch on the internal battles as you navigate these peaks and valleys and plateaus in life.
Absolutely. One of the biggest things that I've learned is the descent isn't just the descent and then we're good. The descent isn't just the descent and then we surrender and then we ascend and we're just, that's it. I've realized day in and day out that every single day is a surrender and every single day I experience descent every single day. I used to think that it was linear. I used to think that it was like, oh, once I get past this, I'll be here. And once I get past this, I'll never have to deal with that again. And it was actually the opposite. As I moved through massive descents and massive edges and stepped off bigger cusps and started challenging myself more and allowing other people in my life to challenge me, I started actually experiencing more descents than I was before because I was actually presenting the struggle, the inevitable pain and the failure and the things that we go through as humans. I started to present that to myself and actually accept that that was just a part of life. And so, absolutely, I feel like if you compare this time now to this time last year, the pain and the failure and the fear of rejection and the descent, all of that wrapped up into one descent, that scared the fuck out of me, which is why I checked myself into a mental health institution last year. Is the thought of going through that was just too much. I have never prepared myself for something like that. So as I take myself through bigger edges and navigate bigger descents, I'm absolutely more equipped. We don't become equipped with the tools and the resources unless we actually experience it. Even if someone hands us a blueprint, if we don't move forward with the blueprint and move forward into the experience, we will never have the tools, so to speak. We have to experience what's given to us as resources in order to not only allow them to work better for us the next time, but in bigger ways. So I feel like every single day now I can navigate big things in a shorter amount of time. And obviously, there's exceptions to that. Obviously, not every day is the same. Obviously, growth, like you said, as a human is not linear. So it's not like I wake up and I'm like, oh, I can overcome anything today. I actually just wake up and surrender to the fact that anything can happen today. And I trust myself and God that in that moment, whatever I navigate, I have this because I'm not afraid to expand on the tools that I have available to me. And I'm not afraid to expand into bigger areas of dissent and struggle, so to speak.
So let's look at the inverse of dissent in abundance. From what you've learned in dissent, how can it help you while you're on the rise and soaking in abundance? I know we go through waves in life. Before dissent, the previous time, there was huge abundance, and maybe it wasn't gone about the right way. So, what can you apply this time to all the abundance now?
Yeah. Wow. I think the biggest part of my last big crumble, well, the big crumble that I had in 2024 was not being able to hold the abundance and the massive resources that were flowing into my life. And so I think the question that you're asking me is how do I handle big results and abundance in my life now
Correct.
as opposed to before? So before it was like, wow, I think about even a year ago and it's like I feel like I've lived so many fucking lifetimes, but specifically since I got sober in 2022, I've had to basically learn how to be an adult. I've had to learn how to have healthy relationships and how to have a healthy relationship with myself and how to have healthy relationships with clients and how to have a healthy balance between personal and business. And not only that, but just allowing my personal life and my business to be one big, beautiful ecosystem instead of putting shame around spending more time in one or the other. But even a year ago, I didn't know how to hold massive amounts of success. I've been in the industry and a business owner for 17 plus years. And when I got sober and trashed everything and basically started everything from ground zero and saw the success that I could have in my business, it took me back a little bit. I guess I didn't realize the potential that I actually had. It was like, oh, this is possible, but fucking wow, that's possible. And so in 2024, when I had my first six-figure day and then I had a multiple six-figure month, cash month, those were things that I wasn't ready to hold because I had forced such massive success in such a short amount of time because that's kind of what we're conditioned to believe in this industry is that, oh, you can become a millionaire with skipping all of these steps because you can hire the right mentor and collapse time. And I think that we take that quite too literally sometimes, where it's like, yes, we can collapse a bunch of time and now I expect to be a millionaire overnight. And that actually happened, right? I had $100,000 in 24 hours in March of 2024. And by the end of the summer in 2024, I was having my first $200,000 cash month. And I didn't know how to hold that. And it was destructive and it was chaotic. And I was spending, and I was actually spending more than I was making. And then all of a sudden I burnt out in my business. And then all of a sudden I had zero. And then I had nothing. And then I checked myself into the hospital. And then all of a sudden I'm manifesting the dissolving of my mastermind because I didn't even desire to work in that space anymore. And then I had a client completely turn on me and it turned my life upside down. And I found myself looking back going, what in the actual fuck just happened? But though, if I would have been able to hold that success and not force myself to grow up too fast in order to hold that success, I would have had the resources and the internal tools and the connection with God to be able to hold all of that. And I would have been more financially prepared for what happened between January and March of 2025. And so now I look at my finances and the abundance of resources and the results in my business completely different. It's like a complete 180. Had I not gone through all of those experiences in such a short amount of time, I still wouldn't have been able to hold that success. And I truly believe that I wouldn't have even gotten to where I am now if I didn't really sit and take inventory of all of that. So at the end of this summer, we had a very high cash flow couple of months, and we made the decision to pay off debts in our house and our cars and our camper and HELOCs that we had and credit card debt that we had because I was financially irresponsible when I wasn't able to hold becoming a millionaire in such a short amount of time. And I wouldn't have been able to do that had I not just allowed myself to surrender to the inevitable. And that's failure, that's defeat, that's kind of letting things crumble and assessing and dissolving the things that are no longer working, despite the income dip and the loss of clients and some of the cancellation that I had in my business. and with friends. But had I not gone through that, we wouldn't be where we are now financially. We wouldn't be where we are in terms of our marriage. I wouldn't be where I am in terms of the connection that I have with my clients and the results that I can get them and the things that we're growing as a company.
So you mentioned being conditioned. That's where I feel like you and us do things differently. We break out of the box and break out of the mold. How do you feel women in this industry are being conditioned to only rely on certain people or certain methods or certain preconceived notions of ways of doing things? And what makes you different than everyone else doing this?
I feel like there's so many facets to the answer of this question. When we started in this industry, when we started going through COVID worldwide, and everybody was kind of in a panic, and everybody saw the coaching industry as this great way to make money and start networking and take anything that they've ever known in their life and they could apply it to coaching. And that was great. And I think that there was a lot of FOMO, there was a lot of desperation, there was a lot of needing to make it, and so people made it work, and it created its own economy, right? There was the coaching economy and the coaching ecosystem, and everybody was paying each other, and it was a grand old time, and that's great. So I don't think that the intention was to step into the industry and start manipulating people and conning people and taking advantage of desperate women who need to make money and people who are vulnerable and want to build a community. I don't think that was the intent. But now that people have tasted the level of income and the level of influence that you can have in this industry, I feel like the conditioning has started to compound. And as human beings, we're very easily influenced and easily conditioned from a very young age. And so, because of that, and because of how hard it is to dismantle and discondition and de-learn and unlearn and relearn and forge our own path, I think people just fell deeper into that. And the people who were hungry for power and money and success, and I also call that living in lack, where things are just never enough. And so they keep going. A lot of people fell for the facade of the potential to make money in this industry. And also, though, falling for what it actually takes and what they're told. And I think what makes me different, to be completely honest, I don't think that I'm any different than the women in this industry. I think what makes my space unique and what makes me unique is I'm willing to unlearn and I'm willing to descend and I'm willing to decondition and I'm willing to surrender myself to pain and struggle if it means evolving into a better person, a better human being, and somebody who can hold a tighter ship and space that actually helps women step off of the train and step off of this cusp that they've been riding for so long, right? I hear women talk about feeling their potential and feeling the vision and feeling their highest timeline and not being able to step off of the cusp. Or women who say, I've been on this cusp for so long and I can't step into my next evolution or my next level. And that's because we already have who we're truly meant to be internally. But when there's fear around losing what we've built, or there's fear around the income dip, or there's fear around stop investing in the mentors community that you're investing in now because everybody that's paying you is in that community and your fear of cancellation is just too grand. I feel that and I get that and I've been there. So I don't think that I'm any different than the women in this industry. I think that what makes me unique is that I'm steps ahead of a lot of people in the industry because I was willing to step into a new paradigm of evolution. And that requires us to go through the descent, several descents over and over and over again, and learning how to navigate it on a different playing field. Right? I'm unique in the way that I built a new playground. I'm not just sitting on the same merry-go-round as everybody else. But I think deep down, we all want the same thing. We all want peace and we all want money and we all want community and we all want to wake up feeling fulfilled and not going to bed feeling like that we didn't do good enough. So I don't think on a cellular level, I'm different from anybody else. I just think what makes me unique is I don't fear the change anymore. I don't fear the pain. I don't suppress when I feel bad or feel defeated. I let it out and I speak into it and I exhaust the energy instead of just pretending that I'm fine. And I think that that's required as a leader who wants to lead other women through the descent into their next evolution. And I think it's unfair that a lot of people say that they can do that, but they can't even hold the space for themselves.
So thinking differently and acting differently like a goofball, but thinking and acting all in the same motion, it took going to a literal rage room to spark the idea for the emotional rage room, which is being released. What can everyone expect? How can everybody choose or just be themselves? What kind of release is it going to be? Just explain that a little bit.
It did take me going to an actual physical rage room. And I think that it's really important to allow yourself to go experience things like that. I was scared as fuck to step into that because I knew that it would drum up a lot of feelings, and I'm glad that I did. But I think that it's important to allow ourselves to go to those places, and quite literally going to a physical rage room and then creating a space for an emotional rage room. I have a little bit more context of how these things can be released and how we can do these without meeting up in a small space and smashing things from Goodwill. So it gave me a little bit more context about the feelings that were internalized, that were released, and how long I navigated those feelings as they were alchemized into new ideas and self power and all of the things. And I think that that was required for me to experience in order to bring more context around the rage room. I think that everybody that steps into the rage room is going to experience different things, and they're going to experience different things on a different level than everybody else. They're going to navigate the aftermath, the post rage, every single session that we have. And I'm not saying rage, we're just going to get on calls and scream. And I'm not talking rage. Every single call, we have to descend and we have to go to deep, dark places. But this will be a space where you can come, and every single call that we get on, you'll be less and less afraid to be called out. You'll be less and less afraid to look into the mirror. You'll be less and less afraid to come face to face with the things that you've been suppressing, and really understanding that we can't fix what we don't face. We can't fix what we don't come head to head with. And what I love about the space is I know the women that I am bringing into this space are ready to support one another because they're already receptive. They're already successful. They've already been on the cusp and off the cusp and off the edge, and they've already done these things in their lives. And so they're all at this point where they're ready for something new. They're ready for something more massive. They're ready for bigger edges to step off of. And so what they can expect when they come in this room is not only the support of people who have been there, but the support of a mentor and colleagues who are ready to brainstorm solutions and not just be chaotic and have this safe space to just completely become unhinged and delusional. Let's be unhinged and delusional, but then we have solutions. But then we have tangible action. But then we have a space where you can come and talk about the things that you're going through internally, where you understand that you have a community that's navigating the same thing.
Right. It's everyone being honest with themselves and honest with each other
Mm-hmm.
in order to all grow together and be better as humans or light beings or whatever it is you feel may be.
Mm-hmm.
Just growing and understanding that it's not going to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's okay to make a misstep. It's okay to doubt yourself from time to time, that it's okay. It's okay to let it out, but to enjoy the descent and trust and know that abundance is on the other side of it.
Absolutely. And that's the biggest thing is the reason why I made the Rage Room 12 months is because I don't believe for one second that even these women who have experienced struggles and descents and highs and lows in their business, relationships, and lives and whatever they're navigating, it takes time to be able to trust yourself and trust the people around you, to be fully receptive and open to completely letting loose and being receptive and open to allowing whatever is meant to happen. I know that because I've stepped into several rooms and I've been in masterminds and spaces that were 6 months or 12 months. And it's like, there's never been the space. I would sit there and I would wait and I would be like, oh, I really need to be open enough. I really need to be more receptive. I really need to allow myself to just be called out and actually be honest about what I'm navigating. And there was just, it was never given to me. It never felt like the right time or the right space or the right person to help lead me through that. And so that's what's created in this space is every single call, the women inside are going to become more in tune with trusting their bodies, trusting themselves, and being okay with saying, hey, this is where the fuck I'm at, and it's scary. And I'm really scared to say that I'm at this place because I don't want to lose followers or I don't want to lose clients, right? I see so many people talking about $100,000 months. It's like this trend in the industry. Great. But also, these women are forgetting that the people who they have told that they can't afford whatever it is that's been presented to them are still following them and them seeing that they're posting that they make $100,000 months, right? So it's those women that are going to feel okay with sharing in this space that they are not making $100,000 months, but they want to get to making $100,000 months. So allowing themselves to step out of the facade and actually face the internal battle, actually face that they're fucking miserable every single day, and us brainstorming a solution together because I've been there. And that's what's different about the Rage Room in terms of the safety, I guess, is it will be presented to you and you will be validated that it's okay to step out of the facade, that you have evidence and you have people who have been through the dissolving of the facade and bigger and more abundant results coming from that.
Right. And people like to feel connected. They like to see that, oh, so and so is just like me. So and so came from exactly where I came from. So and so does have hard times just like I do, which is where I feel this Rage Room is really at its pinnacle. Is that's exactly what it's doing and helping everyone.
Absolutely. And I feel the same way. And I'm so glad that you said everybody likes to feel we're all connected. And we all like to feel connected. We all like to be validated, right? And we all like to relate to somebody else. The problem with being relatable in the industry is most people will talk about things that they think their audience wants to hear, but then they have no solution for it. So they'll connect to their pain points, they'll connect to their struggle points, but then there's no solution. They'll say, hey, I understand that you want to step out of the facade. I understand that you want to step off the cusp. I understand that you want to shed this identity of the woman that you no longer want to be and that you're battling yourself internally. I understand that. So come to me, I'll help you. But then there's no solution. There's relatability because that's how they market, but there's no relatability in terms of embodiment. Most of these mentors who say that they can hold the space for the pain and the struggles that these women are going through, they haven't embodied the descent and they haven't embodied the ascent and they haven't embodied what it actually takes to make it through that and navigate that. So they'll speak to the pain points and they'll be relatable, but then there's nothing on the other side to help these women actually through the things. And so now we have an industry full of women who are turned off by spaces like the Rage Room. They are turned off by masterminds. They are turned off by mentors who say that they can help them because there's always talking to the pain points, but no solution. There's always talking to the pain points, and then they get into these spaces where it's just a circle jerk of people paying each other. And then you have 50 clients, cool, that are paying you, and cool, you're making $50,000 months, cool, because you have clients from your mentor's ecosystem, cool, but nobody in the fucking world knows who you are. Nobody knows who your brand is except for who's in your mentor's ecosystem. And I guarantee that most of these women's fear is as soon as they stop paying that mentor, all of their clients will go away. And that's what the problem is in this industry, is these mentors create communities where everybody has to stay in the community to continue making money. And the Rage Room was made for that woman. The Rage Room has 7-figure earners from all different industries. None of these women, and I made sure of it, none of these women are in the same circle. And it's for a reason. If you stay in your mentor's ecosystem for fear of rejection, fear of cancellation, fear of losing clients, you'll stay in that circle forever. That's not sustainable. And as soon as they stop the ecosystem, your clients that are in that ecosystem stop their ecosystem, or you step out of that ecosystem, your business tanks. And guess what? Nobody in the world still knows who the fuck you are. Nobody in the world knows who the fuck you are. Nobody knows who your brand is or what your brand is. Only the people in that ecosystem. And so the biggest thing for me when I created the Rage Room was thinking about when I stepped out of the lineage of coaches where everybody's just paying each other and I decided to go on my own. I went through several descents, several income dips, several cancellations, several rejections, all of the things. But now here we are making $300,000 cash months throughout our company. And I don't have to rely on somebody else's ecosystem to do that. I can step away from my business and still make money. I can go to sleep and still make money. I can go on a trip and still make money. I don't have to be paying a mentor and I can still make money. But in order to do that, You have to go through the descent and the pain of letting go of all of that fear and also letting go of that ecosystem, because in those ecosystems, you're codependent and you're conditioned to rely on that ecosystem alone. That was a lot. That's a wrap, folks. See you in the motherfucking rage room. So how was it?
I thought it was good.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Swear my life?
Mm-hmm.